Okay, hi, we're back. What we're going to be working on today is going to be our closure rail. It's going to be the curved closure rail that heads off into the diverging route. As you can see here, we've got our curved stock rail in place, still loose in the middle. It's not spiked down yet. Our other stock rail, which is not spiked down yet from about this point on, as well as the inner one here. I do have a switch point on the on the closure rail for the straight route. Got my switch points attached to my other closure rail. This is going to be the part of the video where we start working multiple rails all at the same time. At least it's just the process that I use. I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there have a simpler way of doing this. What I did to get the measurement of my stock rail here, that's going to become the curved one, so I placed my switch point right where it needs to be, again down here, leaving room for the throw bar so that there's adequate room for the movement and so forth of the points. And then I just, approximated the arc of the rail down to the end of the frog here and made my cut, and then just tweaked it a little bit. What you'll find is the curved closure rail is going to be just slightly longer than the straight closure rail. Obviously because it's covering just slightly more distance with that arc in there. So what we got to do now is get this into position and start loosely getting that arc in there and start working our gauge between this stock rail and this closure rail and this closure rail and this stock rail here. And again, the thing we also got to watch for as we're spiking this along and working our way down is our gauge off of our points. Okay, because when the switch is thrown in this direction, kind of like it is now, we got to make sure we've got the correct gauge off this point to this stock rail, and then conversely the same thing from this point over to this stock rail. So there's going to be a lot of things going on here that we got to watch all at once. I'm just going to kind of get to work a little bit here, explain some stuff as I go with this. First thing I'm going to try to do again is get the general shape going, get the approximate gauge going. I'm going to be utilizing my T-pins. Again, these things work very well because they'll help hold the track where you need it and allow you to keep your hands free to make your adjustments and things of that nature. Okay. And again, at this point, this is just to approximate things. This is nothing that is rock solid. Again, we're just doing this loosely. And we'll be making, obviously, our final adjustments as we go. Again, this is just to loosely hold things in place so I can start getting a rough idea of where things are at. As you can see here, I've got it pinned in place now. We're maintaining that good arc, the good radius. It's got our general shape. It's of course way out of gauge at this point, but we need to start somewhere. It's a little bit big on the gauge, so I'm gonna remove this T-pin. It's gonna allow it to spring in a bit. And we'll see where we're at there. And again, this is just where the fine-tuning comes in. You're constantly checking the gauge before you start doing the spiking. Okay, it's really close at this end. I'm going to be working my way down. I'm going to be checking it the entire way. Now on a curve section of these rails, whether it's the diverging route of the turnout or a curve on your layout, I like to open up the gauge just a hair, make it just a little bit wider. I don't want it right up in gauge real tight. I want there to be just a little bit of play in there. Helps to keep things from binding up. Okay. It's a little large here, so I'm going to remove pin. I'm actually going to put it in on the other side to push against this opposite T-pin. We'll go ahead and we'll check it. It's pretty good there. A little loose there, which is okay. I want it a little large. And then right off the frog, we're pretty good. So we're going to work our way down some more. That's pretty good. Okay, now we're starting to tighten up there a little bit. What I'm going to need to do is place a T-pin actually on the inside of the stock rail here, just to open things up a hair. Get it down to here a little more. Okay. Alright, I got that in there. Let me just check it. Oh, it's a little tight. I need to open it up a little bit. This is, again, fellas, this is just what you're going to have to do when you're building them in place like this. A lot of tweaking, a lot of adjusting. But again, you want a good final product. Okay, I'm going to come down here and just see where I'm at with things off of my point. I can see right now it's going to be a little tight here. I'm going to open that up a bit. Get another T-pin down here. And again, this is all just to loosely get things where we want to be. It's going to be a little bit of work, but okay. It's a little tight there. I'm going to have to open it up some more, but we've got the general shape going right now, and for the next few moments, it's going to be kind of what I'm doing now, is just tweaking this, adjusting these T-pins to hold everything exactly where I need them. Once I've got everything tweaked so that our diverging route tracks here are engaged, as well as the straight section of the turnout is engaged and so forth, I'm going to begin doing some spiking and so forth. When I get everything right to where I need it, I'm going to go ahead and come back with the video. But that's all you need to really do here. Get your rail in place, keep everything nice and loose, okay, so that you can tweak things, push it around a little bit, get it right where you need it. That said, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to continue on doing that. When I got it everything exactly where I need it, I'm going to begin spiking everything down here a little bit, start holding things in place. Then when we come back, we'll be working more down this way, getting towards our point work and some interesting little detail work that really will give it some visual pop. Okay, we're back. Repositioning the camera there just to give you a little bit of a different vantage point. Our frog's right down here at this location. You're looking at the very end of the frog. This is heading towards our points. Just wanted to show you here what we went and did. Got everything spiked down up until this point. All our rails are solid up until this point right about here. What we need to continue to do is, again, to fine-tune these rails regarding the gauge and so forth. Big key factor in this, though, too, is when we get down to where the points are at, again, watching that gauge where the points are. I'm going to go ahead now. I'm going to reposition the camera a little bit, actually, just while you're watching. And bear with me for a moment here. Okay. Again, you could just see this is where we stopped with all of our rails at this point right here. So again, like I was saying, we need to continue on with this, but we need to continue watching the gauge. We need to watch for several things down here. We need to watch the gauge of the track, okay, for the straight route, okay, as well as the diverging route. We also need to watch, make sure that we have adequate space in the flangeway here for the flanges, okay, between the point and our stock rails. You don't want that gap to get too tight, okay, because obviously that's going to cause you some problems, and we don't want it to be too far apart either, because then that's going to cause some gauge issues and so forth. So what I like to do is just take an overall view of where I'm at here. See, things are starting to open up in the gauge at that point. Here they're way, way, way too open. Let me get down here. Things are starting to narrow up a bit. And again, okay. So what we're going to begin doing is basically working all four of these rails, getting everything right where we need it engaged. So again, I'm just going to continue doing some of that. I'll let the camera roll for a few minutes here. You can watch a little bit of that that process. Right down in here is where we're going to start transitioning back to those wider tie plates again to accommodate both of our rails. As the standard tie plates just they won't fit and they won't handle the job. But again, we're just going to go ahead and fine-tune things and see where we need to be at here. I'm going to do at this point, so I'm going to keep working the straight route initially here, making sure that that's right where I need it to be. It starts tightening up on me right down here just a little bit. What we're going to need to do again is just adjust things, because as you can see, everything is still loose down here. So I mean, there's still lots of play, lots of wiggle room in what we're going to do. So again, I'm going to go ahead and start inserting a few of these tie plates into the few remaining ties that I can use these on this stock rail on this side right here. That's probably going to be about it for those in this location, just because again there's just not enough room to accommodate these back to back on these adjoining rails, our stock rail and our closure rail. And again, just very quickly while you're looking at things, it's our stock rail, it's a closure rail, and a stock rail. Okay, got those in place. And again, I know that outside stock rail is pretty much right on the money where I need it. I mean, I don't think I could get it any closer if I tried in relation to the edge of the ties and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a few more spikes in this location on that rail. There we go. And what I like to do at this point, and again, you know, what's right for you and so forth may vary, but I like to just work my way down a few ties at a time, you know, working these rails. For me, it's just how I prefer to do it. We get down to this point, some of you may find that you want to go ahead and just insert a few spikes here and there just to hold things in place. Again, whatever you really prefer, whatever just is more comfortable for you and that you feel just makes more sense. Okay, things are looking pretty good. Okay. All right, I'm going to continue working a few more of these rails, working our way down again towards the points. Okay, hi, we're back again. What I continue doing is just inserting my tie plates, checking my track gauge, and spiking as I went along here, again heading down towards the point area. As you can see, I was working each set of rails and just steadily working my way down, inserting my tie plates, and then doing my spiking. Okay, that's what we need to do there. I'm going to go ahead and just adjust the camera a little bit here so you can kind of come up and get a little bit of a better view here. Okay, now what you can see here, I'm going to tighten up a bit on things. So I continued down with the spiking all the way back from where we were at here by our frog area. Just continued everything down on all four of these rails up until we got to about this point down here. This is where I have to transition from the standard tie plates to the wider ones. I'm going to go ahead and zoom back in on that here just so you can see things. And again, I will take the camera down and let you get a closer look at stuff. We've got everything spiked just about up until this point right here. Everything is spiked down, all four of the rails. Again, we're trying to work our way down towards our points down this direction here. What I've done is gotten everything basically in position now for the last little bit of this. Even with me stopping it and doing the spiking, you can see how long the video is here. There's just a lot involved, but just to simply recap it, I'm going to widen back out here. All we've been doing, again, is working off our frog with each of these rails for the diverging route right here, as well as the straight route. And for me, what I like to do and how I like to approach this is I like to treat each one of those just as like it's just its own track, its own, you know, section of track, like we were laying regular track work. And again, just checking it, and working off, and working my way down the line, inserting tie plates and spiking as I go. Always checking the track gauge, always being conscious of that, and just keep working our way down the line. Eventually what's going to happen in the turnout here, again, if you're utilizing the tie plates and so forth, is like I said, you're going to get to the point we're going to need to go from our standard tie plates, again, back to these wide ones, okay? Because what we're doing with those tie plates there is that's giving us the detail, but it's also providing us the ability to span these two rails, okay, on either side here with a single tie plate. And requires a little bit more spiking and so forth, but that's what's necessary to hold all these rails in position. What I've done, actually right on this tie here, you probably can't see it too well, I will take you in a little bit later, is I've inserted those wider tie plates on this tie. I've gotten all four of my rails spiked down and engage at this location. Right here on this tie is where my points begin, okay? I know all four of these rails I'm good in. I'm engaged right there, okay? So what that's going to allow for me, when I begin working the points and stuff down here and working the rail the rest of the way here, is to know that everything's good up to that point. And everything I do after that's going to all be the point work and so forth. It can be a little bit intimidating at first, but there's really not a lot to it. When I start working down here and utilizing a lot of the detail parts and all that stuff, I'm going to let the thing roll for the entire thing so you can see it, see exactly what I do, figure out what you want to do, what you don't want to do. But this is, again, a chance where we're going to get to incorporate a lot of detail parts and so forth. And at that point, I want to reiterate what I've said in a lot of the videos. Please don't feel that you have to use all these detail parts in order to have a nice looking layout, nice looking track work and so forth. You don't, guys, okay? So don't feel like you have to go do that, okay? Again, I've seen plenty of layouts without the tie plates and all this stuff that look awesome, just absolutely wonderful. As you can see, though, you know, if you do choose to go that route, the tie plates and the joint bars and everything of that nature, it really is going to give you that visual pop, especially when everything's all weathered and in place. It's just really something to see. What I'm going to do here is just move the camera down a little bit. Bear with me. Kind of want to get you down to a little bit of a better angle here so you can see things a bit better. I'm going to go ahead and just angle this downward a little bit. Okay. Now you're able to kind of see a little bit more of the area I'm talking about here. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this. Okay, and again, this is the part where I was referring to, where I've installed the wider tie plates, and I've got all four of these rails spiked down, and everything's solid on this tie right here. Again, a bit more spiking, a bit more spike work and so forth, but that's what we need to do. We're pretty good at this point. Okay, I'm inserting these wider tie plates now. Again, to span both the rails to give us that nice little detail as well as the spiking areas and so forth for all our rails. I know everything all through this point here that I was talking about a little bit earlier where I've got all four of the rails spiked down already. It's all engaged, it's all right where I need it. It's all right on the money. And again, it was just working my way down, checking things as I went. Now the track for my diverging right here, it's a little wide, it's a little open on the gauge. Again, I like to do that in a curve just to give it just a little bit of play, a little bit of slack, if you will, in there. I don't want things too tight to bind up or anything in there. So again, I'm just going to be inserting these tie plates. These again are just the wider plastic tie plates. Again, we're just looking to get them in there, get them centered on the tie. Have a good amount on either side of our rail. And this is how we're going to continue the spiking from this point on all the way down to where our points begin. And then I'm going to be moving into some different detail parts and so forth at that point for you to see. Again, you know, it's like anything when you're working with these things. Just take your time, get them positioned right where you need them. Okay. Taking your time here really is where the payoff is at, because I'm here to tell you, track is a model too. We, you know, so often get caught up in, you know, modeling our rolling stock and our engines, you know, and counting rivets on those things, but yet we're perfectly content to neglect our track work. You know, it's like I said, it's a model too. But that said, you don't need the tie plates and all these detail parts in order to have a great model. What I'm referring to here is taking the time to get things sound so that they function reliably, as well as, you know, if we go to weather our track and so forth, and the ballasting and everything like that, it's the necessity for our layout. Without a track work, you don't have a layout, you know, you just have a wonderfully scenic bench. So again, you know, take the time, work with this, don't be in a hurry, get things right where you need them. And again, you see here, I've got my tie plates going in. These again are those longer ones to span that added distance. So what I'm going to continue to do here, without making you suffer through it, is I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get everything, all the tie plates and everything inserted on both sides here. Get everything spiked down right up to this point where the points begin. When we get to this part, I'm going to try to give you a little bit of a unique angle so you can see things very clearly about what I'm doing. And again, this portion of the video will take a little bit longer because there's a bit to just show you and a bit to explain. So that said, I'm going to go ahead and continue this, and when we come back, we'll be in the next segment of the video working on our points.